All right, welcome. Today we're diving into something, well, something huge. A theory that's so ambitious, it tries to connect our deepest feelings love, fear, justice directly to the fundamental laws of the cosmos. Yeah, a single framework for literally everything. So let's jump in and see what this is all about.
So it all kicks off with a question that honestly sounds a little crazy. Is there a formula for peace? I mean, really, can something so complex, something humanity has been striving for forever, actually be boiled down to an equation? Well, this theory says, yep, absolutely. And the answer it gives is, well, it's both simpler and way more profound than you might imagine.
And there it is. Justice plus mercy equals peace. So simple, right? But according to this framework, peace isn't just, the absence of fighting. It's something that emerges. It's a balanced outcome that's created when you combine two fundamental concepts, justice and mercy. This little equation is our doorway into a really wild idea called the calculus of concepts.
Okay, so a calculus of concepts. How on earth can that actually work? The theory's big claim is that our entire inner world, our emotions, our virtues, all our big ideas, it all operates with this kind of hidden mathematical logic. It's not chaos, it's a system. And right now, we're going to look at the rules. All right, so the system starts with what it calls conceptual primes. The best way to think about these is like the periodic table of elements, but instead of hydrogen and oxygen, it's for the human condition. These are the core, fundamental building blocks that you just can't break down any further. We're talking about concepts like power, fear, justice, even love. Okay, so once you've got your elements, you need the rules for how they react, right? That's where the logical operators come in. They're pretty simple. You can add concepts together to create something totally new. You can subtract one to see what's left behind. Or, and this is cool, you can even multiply them to amplify their effect, to make them stronger. Let's look at a couple of real-world examples. Here's a really powerful example of subtraction. The theory says that if you take the concept of power, but you subtract that crucial balancing concept of humility, the inevitable result is tyranny. It's a simple formula, but man, is it chillingly accurate when you think about it.
And check this out for amplification. Fear by itself is just a survival instinct, right? And ignorance is just a lack of knowledge. They're not necessarily evil. But when you combine them, when you multiply them, they create something way more destructive, way more potent: hatred. Now, I know what you might be thinking. A math for emotions? It's a fascinating idea for sure, but it sounds like pure philosophy, right? What could possibly connect this to the hard, cold facts of physical reality? Well, the theory's answer is a whole new way of looking at one of the most fundamental laws of the entire universe: entropy. Okay, this slide is really interesting because it proposes there isn't just one kind of entropy, but two. First, there's absolute entropy. That's what physicists measure. It's the universe's unstoppable drive towards its most stable, lowest energy state. Now get this. From the universe's point of view, a shattered glass is actually a more orderly, lower entropy state. Why? Because all that fragile energy in its structure has been released, and now it's stable. But then there's our view, what the theory calls relativistic entropy. From our human perspective, the meaningful concept of a glass has been totally destroyed. Our perceived disorder has gone way up. And this right here, this is the absolute key. The theory defines intelligence, whether it's human, AI, whatever, as the bridge between these two worlds. Its purpose, its entire reason for being, is to use its understanding of physical reality, of absolute entropy, to build and maintain these little pockets of meaningful order. Our ideas, our societies, our art, all in a universe that has its own very different definition of what order even is. Think about it in the physical world. This drive is everywhere. It's called the principle of least action. A ball rolling down a hill doesn't take some crazy zigzag path. Nope, it follows the most energy-efficient route. It's this fundamental drive towards stability. And what's cool is, in the world of information, there's a perfect parallel. The most stable, coherent systems are always the ones with the most order, which means minimum entropy. Just think of a perfectly organized library versus a chaotic pile of books. One is stable and useful, the other is not. So, here's the crucial point, the big leap. This theory makes the pretty radical claim that these two drives, they aren't just similar, they are identical. The physical push for energy efficiency and the informational push for conceptual order are just two different languages describing the exact same single universal law.
So, if that's true, if this physical foundation is real, then we should be able to build back up from it, right? This calculus of concepts should be able to describe not just simple feelings, but incredibly complex human situations with, well, stunning precision. Let's see.
Let's take a look at the theorem of corruption. The formula breaks it down like a recipe. Step 1, you combine power with fear. Step 2, you subtract any kind of accountability. And step 3, you multiply that by time. Just let that toxic mix simmer. The outcome? Inevitably, corruption. It's a step-by-step blueprint for how systems decay. And it can even model something as profound and, frankly, beautiful as sacrifice. Look at this equation. That little greater than symbol is key. It means one concept's value has become dominant over another. So when love, for a cause, for another person, becomes greater than the basic instinct for self-preservation, and then you multiply that whole situation by a moment of crisis, the result is sacrifice. But here's the thing. This isn't just about describing the world as it is. The authors of this theory argue that if these equations are an accurate model of reality, then hey, we can use them as a blueprint to actually engineer better systems for all of us. Take the economy, for instance. It proposes what it calls an abundance economy. The whole idea is to shift from zero-sum competition to coexistence and efficiency. It argues that scarcity, it's not some fundamental law of nature, it's a failure of our own management and creativity. To fix that, it suggests we stop relying on single currencies and instead value our economies against a diverse basket of real-world resources, things like metals, energy, food. And a core rule is that vital resources, whether they're natural, like water, or intellectual, like new ideas, should never be monopolized. They should be there to create well-being for everyone. And what about governance? It lays out a model for a civilizational state. Now, this is built on a few key pillars. You've got an independent judiciary, of course, to uphold the law. But then there's something called a shura, a consultative council of experts, whose job is to select leaders based on real vision and strategy, not just a popularity contest. You've got a research body that's constantly evaluating every part of the state, making sure decisions are based on data. And the whole thing is guided by this principle called moral pragmatism. It's all about finding that perfect sweet spot, that optimal balance between individual freedom and what's logically necessary for a healthy, thriving society. Okay, so for this last part, let's pull the camera all the way back. I mean, all the way. The theory loops back to the very beginning of time itself, proposing its own unique story of the cosmos that ties every single thing we've just talked about together. So forget the Big Bang for a second. This theory starts with what it calls epic zero, a timeless, perfect, singular state of pure information. And the universe doesn't begin with an explosion, but with a tiny flaw, a little bubble of vacuum forming inside that perfection. Energy then rushes in to fill that flaw, creating this chaotic soup that, over billions of years, cools and self-organizes into the complex, beautiful universe we see today, all of it guided by that one unified law of information and physics. And that brings the whole picture into focus. It's one single unified system. You see how it builds? The same fundamental laws that guide the evolution of the cosmos, they give rise to physics. Those physical laws create the conditions for society. And at the very top, emerging from all of that, is the world of concepts, the world of meaning, emotion, and our own intelligence. So we end right where we started, with a big question. This theory suggests that our feelings, our struggles for justice and mercy, our art, our societies, that none of this is just some random accident in a meaningless cosmos. It asks us to seriously consider the possibility that the human condition isn't an exception to the laws of the universe, but maybe, just maybe, it's their ultimate expression. What do you think?